Chosen one, they picked the one day they thought you couldn't protect. Your wedding day. The one day they knew every eye in your life would be pointed at you, every camera in the room aimed at you, every person you love gathered under one roof at the same time. And that's exactly why they chose it. Your old rival, the one who smiled in your face for years while quietly counting every way to hurt you, decided your wedding was the perfect stage for their final move. They didn't come with fists. They didn't come with shouting. They came with whispers, favors called in, and a plan they were certain no one would ever trace back to them. What they didn't know is that somewhere in that room, behind a lens they never once looked at twice, someone was recording every second of it. Not just the vows, not just the first dance. The plan itself, unfolding in real time, on camera, in full color, with sound. And now, chosen one, the same person who walked into your wedding smiling, is the one who can't walk into a room without checking who's behind them. Let's go back to the beginning, because this story deserves to be told in full. You know the kind of rival I'm talking about. Not the kind who challenges you honestly and lets the better person win. The kind who has been circling you for years, smiling in photos, liking your posts, showing up to your birthdays, all while quietly working against you behind the scenes. The kind of person who needed you to fail so badly that your happiness felt like a personal insult to them. You felt it for years. That strange coldness behind their compliments. That timing that was never quite an accident. The opportunities that vanished right when you were close enough to touch them. You couldn't prove any of it. You just carried the weight of knowing something was off, and nobody around you wanted to hear it because on the surface, that person looked so harmless. Then came the engagement. And chosen one, you remember the exact look on their face when they heard the news. That half-second flash before the smile locked into place. That fake congratulations that came out a beat too slow. You told yourself you were imagining it. You told yourself this was your big day, and you weren't going to let old suspicion ruin it. So you moved forward. You planned. You built something beautiful out of love, out of patience, out of everything you'd survived to get here. And the whole time, behind closed doors, in group chats you were never added to, in phone calls you were never told about, they were building something too. Not a gift, not a toast, a plan. Before we go further, chosen one, if this story is already pulling something out of you, hit that like button and subscribe so this message finds the next person who needs to hear it. This isn't about numbers for us. It's about making sure nobody carries a story like this alone. Now let's get back into it, because the deepest part of this story hasn't even started yet. Think about the discipline it takes to hide something like that for months. Every conversation carefully worded, every reaction rehearsed in advance, every smile timed to land exactly right in front of exactly the right people. That's not a small slip in judgment. That's a sustained, deliberate campaign, run by someone who had every intention of watching your wedding day turn into something you'd remember for all the wrong reasons. And the fact that it didn't work, the fact that you're hearing this story now instead of living inside the version they wanted for you, says everything about the difference between someone who plans destruction and someone who simply keeps building, unaware and unbothered, right through the middle of it. Here is what almost happened on your wedding day. Not the version you tell people at dinner parties, the real version. The one hidden inside a memory card that nobody knew existed until it was too late for them to stop it. Number 1, the wedding they wanted to destroy. Chosen one, your wedding day wasn't just a party to them, it was a target. Understand that clearly, because it changes everything about what happened next. To everyone else in that room, it was flowers and vows and a first dance under string lights. To your old rival, it was the single biggest audience they would ever get to hurt you in front of. Every person who mattered to you was going to be sitting in those chairs. Every family member, every childhood friend, every co-worker who respected you. If they were ever going to make you small in front of the people whose opinion you cared about most, this was the day to do it. That's not jealousy in the ordinary sense. That's calculation. That's someone who spent months, maybe longer, thinking about the exact moment your joy would be loudest so they could try to drown it out. Think about what that takes. Most people who dislike someone simply avoid them. They unfollow, they distance, they let time do the work. Your rival did the opposite. They stayed close, they stayed smiling, they stayed present in your life, specifically so they'd have a front row seat to plan this. That's not a rival. That's someone who built an entire strategy around your happiest day. And the fact that they were willing to do that tells you everything about who they really are and nothing about who you are. You didn't do anything to deserve this. You simply had something they couldn't stand to watch you keep. Peace, love, a future they weren't part of. Picture the timeline the way it actually happened. Weeks before the wedding, small comments start landing in your circle. Nothing direct, nothing you could ever call them out for cleanly. A concerned message to a mutual friend here. A just looking out for you comment there. Seeds, planted quietly, meant to grow into doubt right around the time your guests would be walking in. That's the kind of sabotage that doesn't leave fingerprints. It's designed to feel like concern instead of cruelty. It's built so that if you ever confronted them, they could say, "I was just being honest," and make you look paranoid for even asking. But here's what they didn't count on. While they were busy planting seeds in your circle, someone else was already watching them do it. Someone whose entire job that day was to notice things nobody else was paying attention to. Someone paid to catch exactly the kind of moment your rival thought would stay invisible forever. Your wedding day wasn't just the party they wanted to ruin. It became the day their plan got permanently recorded, whether they liked it or not. Think about how much of their own life they must have set aside to make room for this. Months of quiet groundwork. Months of staying close enough to gather information, far enough to avoid suspicion. That kind of effort doesn't come from someone who is thriving. It comes from someone whose entire sense of self had become tangled up in your downfall. Someone who needed you to stumble because your steadiness had started to feel like an accusation they couldn't stop hearing. You never asked to be measured against. You simply lived your life, and that alone became unbearable for them to watch. Number 2, the photographer nobody suspected. Every wedding has one person in the room who isn't really part of the celebration and isn't really an outsider either, the photographer. Moving quietly along the walls, crouching for angles, disappearing into corners, catching moments nobody else even notices they're in. Most people forget the photographer is even there after the first 10 minutes. That's the whole point of the job. Blend in enough that people stop performing for the camera and start being themselves. Chosen one. That's exactly what worked against your rival. They had clearly thought through what your friends would notice, what your family would notice, even what you might notice through the fog of your own wedding day nerves. What they never thought through was the person hired to capture every candid, unscripted second of the day, including the ones happening in hallways, near the bar, outside during a smoke break they thought was private. They treated the photographer like furniture, a prop in the background of their scheme. And that mistake is the reason this entire story exists. Somewhere between the ceremony and the reception, your photographer caught something they weren't even looking for. Maybe it was a tense exchange near the coat check. Maybe it was a hushed argument by the parking lot where your rival thought no one could hear. Maybe it was simply the wrong face at the wrong moment, captured in the background of a shot meant for something else entirely. Whatever it was, once it landed on that memory card, it stopped being a rumor and became evidence. Time-stamped, unedited, impossible to argue with the way whispered accusations always can be. Imagine spending months building a plan so quiet that no one could trace it back to you, only to find out the entire thing was recorded by someone you never even considered a threat. That's the position your rival is in right now, chosen one, whether they've fully admitted it to themselves yet or not. They studied your friends, they studied your family, they studied you. The one person they never studied was the quiet professional standing off to the side with a camera, doing their job exactly the way they were hired to do it. That's the twist nobody saw coming. Not you, not your rival, not even the photographer, who had no idea when they lifted that camera that they were about to become the reason the truth couldn't stay buried. There's something almost humbling about how ordinary the whole thing was. No dramatic sting operation, no secret investigator hired to catch someone in the act. Just a person doing a completely normal job, pointing a lens where the light looked good, following the natural flow of a wedding day the way they'd done 100 times before. The truth didn't need anything elaborate to come out. It just needed one honest witness, in the right place, at the right time, doing exactly what they were already being paid to do. Number 3, the whispers before the vows. Let's talk about what was actually happening in the hours before you walked down that aisle, because this is the part that will make your skin crawl once you understand it fully. While you were getting your hair and makeup done, laughing with your bridal party, feeling that mix of nerves and joy that only comes once, your rival was working the room like it was a job. Not obviously, never obviously. That was never their style. They were dropping small comments to your guests, testing which ones would listen, which ones would repeat what they heard, which ones might quietly plant doubt in your partner's family before the ceremony even started. This is the part people underestimate about sabotage like this. It doesn't need to be loud to be dangerous. A single whispered comment to the right person at the right moment can ripple through an entire room faster than any announcement ever could. Your rival knew that. They weren't trying to stop the wedding outright. That would have exposed them instantly. They were trying to plant something small enough to survive the day and grow afterward. A little doubt here, a little tension there. Something that would fester quietly in the weeks and months after the wedding, long after everyone had gone home and stopped paying close attention. Chosen one, this is exactly why their plan is so much worse than a simple outburst would have been. An outburst gets you sympathy immediately. Everyone sees the villain clearly and rallies around you. What your rival attempted instead was slower, sneakier, and built to be denied. If it had worked the way they wanted, you might not have even known where the tension in your new marriage was coming from for months. You might have blamed yourself. You might have blamed your partner. You might have spent your first year of marriage quietly confused about a coldness that had nothing to do with either of you, and everything to do with a seed someone planted on purpose. But here's what they didn't plan for. Every one of those quiet conversations happened somewhere in that venue, and venues are full of open doors, thin walls, and photographers who move around with a purpose. Somewhere in that footage, whether they realize it yet or not, there's a record of the whispering, the body language, the way they pulled certain people aside at certain moments. None of it looks accidental once you see it laid out in order. It looks exactly like what it was. A plan in motion, on the one day they thought no one would be watching closely enough to notice. There's a particular kind of cruelty in choosing whispers over confrontation, chosen one. A direct conflict, however painful, at least gives you the chance to respond, to defend yourself, to correct the record in real time. Whispers deny you that chance entirely. They're designed to spread in rooms you're not standing in, to shape opinions before you even know a conversation happened. That's why this kind of sabotage feels so disorienting when you first sense it. You can feel the temperature change in a room without being able to name the source, because the source was never meant to be traceable back to a single moment you could point to. Number 4. The moment they almost won. There's always a moment in stories like this where the plan comes closest to working. And chosen one, That moment happened during your reception, whether you clocked it in real time or not. Think back. Was there a strange pause during a toast? A guest who suddenly seemed distant afterward? A flicker of tension between your partner's family and someone in your circle that dissolved as quickly as it appeared, leaving you unsure if you'd imagined it? That wasn't random. That was the seed almost taking root, right there in front of everyone, disguised as small talk and awkward silence. This is the part of the story that stings the most to look back on, because in that moment, the damage was almost real. A toast that started warm and ended a little too pointed. A comment about how fast this all came together that landed with an edge nobody could quite name. A joke that wasn't really a joke, aimed just enough at your partner or your family to make people shift in their seats. Sabotage like this thrives in that gray area, the space where nobody wants to be the one to say, "That felt off," because saying it out loud might make them look dramatic. Your rival was counting on that silence. They were counting on everyone swallowing their discomfort rather than naming it. For a few minutes, maybe longer, it worked exactly the way they hoped. You could feel something shift in the air without being able to point to why. Your partner might have felt it too. A tightness in a hug that used to be effortless. A joke that landed wrong. A relative pulling your partner's parent aside for just a quick word. None of it was enough to ruin the day outright. That was never the goal. The goal was to plant something that would keep bothering you long after the cake was cut and the lights went down. But here's the part that changes everything, chosen one. Every single one of those moments happened in a room full of guests, near a bar, by a coat check, in a hallway with decent lighting, and a photographer moving through it with a purpose. What felt, in the moment, like a plan that was working perfectly, was actually a plan being documented in real time by the one person in the building whose entire job was to notice exactly this kind of thing. They almost won. And then the footage came back from editing, and everything they thought they'd gotten away with turned out to be sitting right there in the raw files the whole time. Imagine standing at the edge of getting exactly what you planned for months, close enough to taste it, only to have the entire thing swept away by a piece of technology you never once considered. That's the position your rival didn't even know they were in during those tense, uncomfortable minutes at your reception. They thought the discomfort in the room was their victory. What it actually was a moment being preserved forever, in a form they would have no way to talk their way out of once it resurfaced. Number 5. The signal only you felt. Chosen one, you don't need proof to feel when something is wrong. Long before any footage came back, before any conversation confirmed what your gut had been whispering for weeks, you felt something off about the way your rival acted around your engagement. Maybe it was the compliment that felt just a little too rehearsed. Maybe it was the offer to help with the planning that came with strings you couldn't quite name. Maybe it was simply the way the room felt different whenever they walked into it, a coldness underneath the smile that your instincts picked up on long before your mind could put words to it. This is the part people forget to talk about when they focus only on evidence and proof. Your body knew before your brain caught up. That tightness in your chest every time they got a little too involved in the wedding planning. That hesitation before you invited them, a hesitation you talked yourself out of because you didn't want to seem petty or paranoid on the biggest day of your life. You wanted to believe the best in people, especially people who had been around for years, especially on a day built entirely around love and trust. So you pushed the feeling down. You told yourself you were imagining things. You told yourself this was just old history you needed to let go of. But instinct doesn't lie the way people do. It doesn't perform. It doesn't smile for the camera while planning something behind your back. And chosen one, the fact that you felt uneasy long before you had any proof isn't a flaw in your judgment. It's proof of how sharp your judgment actually is. You picked up on something real, something your rival worked very hard to hide, and you picked up on it with nothing more than instinct and years of quietly watching how they treated you when they thought it didn't matter. This is important because it means you weren't blindsided the way they hoped you'd be. Part of you was already braced. Part of you had already started protecting your peace without even realizing it, keeping a little distance, keeping certain conversations vague, trusting your gut enough to not hand them everything. That instinct is exactly why, when the footage eventually surfaced, it confirmed something you already knew deep down, rather than shattering a trust you never fully gave them in the first place. This is worth remembering the next time your gut tries to tell you something about someone new who enters your life. You don't always need proof in the moment to justify protecting yourself. A quiet distance, a little extra caution, a decision to keep certain details close instead of freely shared, none of that requires an explanation to anyone, including yourself. Your instincts were built from years of watching how people actually behave, not just what they say, and that kind of pattern recognition deserves far more credit than it usually gets in the moment it's happening. Number 6. The footage that was never supposed to exist. Here's where the story turns, chosen one. Because this is the part your rival never saw coming, not in 1,000 versions of their plan. Weeks after the wedding, once the adrenaline had faded and real life had settled back in, the full photo and video package came back from your photographer. Hundreds of images, hours of raw, unedited footage, the kind most couples skim through once for the highlights and never look at again in full. But somewhere in those files, in between candid shots of your first dance and laughter at the dinner tables, there it was, clear as anything, time-stamped, dated, undeniable. A hallway conversation that shouldn't have been happening, a tone of voice that didn't match the smiling face your rival wore in every other frame, a comment caught on a lapel mic during a toast rehearsal that revealed exactly what they'd been planning to say before someone talked them out of the most obvious version of it. None of it was staged, none of it was dramatized for a camera, because none of the people in those clips knew they were being recorded in that moment. That's what makes it impossible to argue with. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't a second-hand story that could be twisted or denied. This was them, in their own words, in their own body language, caught doing exactly what everyone suspected, but nobody could prove. Chosen one, understand how rare a moment like this actually is. Most sabotage like this stays buried forever. The person who did it denies it. The people who witnessed it stay quiet out of fear or awkwardness, and the victim is left holding a feeling with no evidence to back it up. That's usually how these stories end, unresolved, with the truth locked away in someone's memory where it slowly fades or gets rewritten. But this time, the truth had nowhere to hide. It existed on a hard drive, backed up, dated, and completely outside your rival's control. They spent months making sure nothing could be traced back to them. They were careful with their words around you. They were careful with their timing. What they weren't careful about was the fact that a professional was hired to document literally everything happening in that building on that day. And professionals don't ask permission before they press record. The very thing that was supposed to be the backdrop of their sabotage became the reason it could never be denied. There's something almost poetic about that, chosen one, even if poetic isn't the word your rival would use for it right now. They wanted an audience for your downfall. They got exactly what they wanted, an audience, a room full of witnesses, cameras rolling. They simply never imagined that the audience they built would end up watching them instead of you. Every calculation they made about visibility, about timing, about who would be in the room to see it, worked exactly as planned. It just worked against the person who planned it. Number 7. The first eyes that saw the truth. Before you ever knew what was on that footage, Someone else did. Your photographer, going through hours of raw material to prepare your final gallery, was the very first person to see what had actually happened behind the scenes of your wedding day. Chosen one, imagine being in their position, editing through hundreds of joyful, ordinary wedding clips, and then suddenly landing on a moment that clearly wasn't ordinary at all. A hushed argument, a comment dripping with something that didn't match the day's tone, a face caught mid-scheme, completely unaware it was being filmed. Most photographers would have quietly moved past it, cut it from the final edit, and said nothing. It's not their job to get involved in drama that isn't theirs. But something about what they saw clearly didn't sit right, because instead of quietly deleting it, they made the decision to flag it. To ask a careful, respectful question about what was going on in that clip before deciding what to do with it. That single decision, made by someone with no personal stake in your rival's plan, is the reason this story exists at all. Think about how much courage that takes, even in a small way. It would have been easier to say nothing, deliver the polished highlight reel, and move on to the next client. Instead, this person chose honesty over convenience. They chose to treat what they witnessed as something worth addressing rather than something worth burying. That's not nothing, chosen one. That's someone recognizing that truth matters even when it's inconvenient, even when it's not their story to tell. And once that first person saw it clearly, once they understood what they were actually looking at, everything changed. Because now the truth wasn't just a feeling you carried. It wasn't just a suspicion your closest friends quietly agreed with over private conversations. It was footage sitting in front of a neutral third party who had absolutely nothing to gain from taking your side and nothing to lose by staying silent, except their own integrity. And they chose not to stay silent. Number 8. The room that went silent. Chosen one, picture the moment the footage was finally shown to the people who needed to see it. Not a dramatic public reveal, nothing staged. Just a quiet room, a laptop screen, and the people closest to you watching in real time as a story they had heard secondhand suddenly had a face, a voice, and a timestamp attached to it. That kind of silence hits differently than any argument ever could. Nobody needed to raise their voice. Nobody needed to convince anyone of anything. The footage did all the talking, and the room simply had to sit with what it had just seen. That's the moment sabotage like this always collapses under its own weight. As long as it stays a rumor, a feeling, well, maybe I'm wrong kind of suspicion, it can survive. People can talk themselves out of believing it. They can give the benefit of the doubt. They can say, surely they wouldn't go that far, even when part of them suspects otherwise. But once it's on screen, once it's undeniable, that benefit of the doubt evaporates instantly. There's no more room for maybe. There's only what actually happened, laid out exactly as it occurred, with nowhere left to hide. Think about how humiliating that moment is for someone who spent months being careful, calculated, and quiet about their plan. All that effort to avoid leaving fingerprints, and it turns out the fingerprints were never the danger. The plan itself was recorded in full motion. Every whispered word, every strategic pause, every rehearsed comment, right there for anyone with eyes to see. There is no spin that survives footage like that. There is no charming explanation that undoes what people watched with their own eyes. Chosen one, notice something important about that moment. Nobody in that room needed you to defend yourself. Nobody needed you to explain what happened or convince them of anything. The evidence carried its own weight, and it carried it further and faster than any argument you could have made on your own behalf. That's the difference between trying to prove something with words and simply letting the truth exist where people can see it clearly. Words can be doubted. Footage, time-stamped and unedited, has nowhere left to hide. And chosen one, Once that room went silent, something shifted permanently. The people who might have given your rival the benefit of the doubt before now had to reckon with what they'd actually seen. The people who might have dismissed your concerns as overreacting now understood exactly why you felt the way you did. That silence in the room was the sound of the truth finally landing where it belonged, and there was no version of that footage that made your rival look anything other than exactly who they'd been the entire time. Number 9. The friends who chose the wrong side. Here's a part of this story that deserves its own moment, chosen one, because it's not just your rival who has some accounting to do. It's everyone who knew something was happening and said nothing. The friends who heard the whispers before the wedding and stayed quiet because getting involved felt messier than staying neutral. The guests who noticed the tension during the toast and chose to laugh it off rather than ask what was really going on. Silence, in moments like this, isn't harmless. It's a quiet form of permission, and some of the people closest to you gave that permission without ever meaning to call it that. You probably already have a suspicion about who those people are. The ones who got quieter around you after the wedding, instead of louder in your defense. The ones who avoided eye contact when the topic came up in conversation. The ones who suddenly remembered hearing something only after the footage made denial impossible. That timing tells you everything. They didn't come forward because they cared about the truth. They came forward because staying silent had finally become more dangerous to their own reputation than speaking up. That's an uncomfortable thing to sit with, but it's an important one. Real loyalty doesn't wait for proof to show up before it takes a side. Real loyalty speaks up in the uncertain moments, when doing so is inconvenient, when doing so might create tension at a party or an awkward silence in a group chat. The people who waited for undeniable footage before admitting what they already suspected were never protecting you. They were protecting their own comfort, and now that the truth is public, they're scrambling to rewrite their role in the story before anyone notices how long they stayed quiet. Chosen one, you don't owe those people your trust just because they're finally saying the right things now that it's safe to say them. Trust isn't something that gets automatically restored the moment the risk disappears. It's something that has to be earned back, slowly, through consistency, not through convenient timing. Watch closely who shows up for you when the truth is still uncertain, and remember exactly who waited until it was undeniable before they found their courage. This is a hard lesson, chosen one, but an important one to carry forward. Not every person who claps for you at the wedding is someone who would have stood beside you in the parking lot when things got quiet and uncomfortable. Some people are only capable of loyalty when it costs them nothing. That doesn't make them your enemies. It simply means you now know exactly how much weight their support can actually hold, and you get to decide, calmly and without bitterness, how close you let that kind of loyalty stand to the center of your life going forward. Number 10. The mask coming off in real time. There's a particular kind of unraveling that happens to people who spend years being careful about how they're perceived, and chosen one, your rival, is living through it right now. For as long as you've known them, they mastered a certain image. Warm in public, supportive on the surface, the kind of person who says all the right things at exactly the right moments, so nobody looks too closely at what's underneath. That mask took years to build, and it just came apart in a matter of days because of a few seconds of footage nobody could argue with. Watch how people behave once their carefully built image starts cracking. First comes denial, insisting the footage is being taken out of context, that nobody understands what was really happening in that moment. Then comes the pivot to victimhood, trying to convince anyone who will listen that they're the one being unfairly attacked, that this is somehow an overreaction to a misunderstanding. Then, when neither of those work, comes the retreat, the quiet, disappearing from group chats. The sudden inactivity on social media. The unanswered messages from people who used to get a reply within minutes. That retreat, chosen one, is the mask coming off completely. Someone who was truly innocent wouldn't need to disappear. They'd stay, defend themselves clearly, and let the full context speak for them if there really was innocent context to speak of. Instead, what you're watching is someone realizing in real time that the version of themselves they spent years building in front of other people cannot survive contact with the truth. And rather than face that reckoning directly, they're choosing to vanish from the rooms where that reckoning is happening. This is what it looks like when a carefully constructed image finally meets reality. It doesn't crumble slowly. It collapses all at once, the moment there's no more room to spin the story. And once people have seen behind a mask like that, once they've watched it fall in real time, they don't forget what they saw underneath, no matter how quickly the person tries to rebuild a new version of themselves somewhere else. There's a reason this kind of unraveling happens so fast once it starts. A mask takes years to build because every layer has to be tested, adjusted, and reinforced against scrutiny. But once one piece of undeniable proof gets through, the whole structure loses its foundation at once. It isn't a slow leak, it's a collapse. And chosen one, the people watching that collapse happen in real time, are learning something they will remember for a long time, which is exactly how far someone was willing to go while still looking like the version of themselves everyone thought they knew. Number 11. Why they chose your happiest day. It's worth asking the harder question here, chosen one, because understanding why someone does something like this matters just as much as knowing that they did it. Why your wedding day specifically? Why not some smaller moment where the stakes were lower and the fallout would be quieter? The answer says more about them than it ever could about you. People who attack someone's biggest, most joyful moments aren't doing it out of simple dislike. They're doing it because that joy feels unbearable to witness from the outside, especially when it's a kind of joy they don't believe they deserve for themselves, or worse, a kind of joy they secretly wanted and never got. Your wedding wasn't just a celebration to your rival. It was proof of everything they measured themselves against and came up short on. Proof that you built something real while they were still circling, still competing, still keeping score in a game only they were playing. That kind of comparison eats at people slowly, quietly, until it turns into something they feel entitled to disrupt. In their mind, if they couldn't have that kind of happiness, some part of them decided you shouldn't get to fully enjoy yours either, at least not without a shadow hanging over it. That's not strength, chosen one, no matter how calculated their plan looked from the outside. That's someone so consumed by comparison that they couldn't sit through your happiest day without trying to insert themselves into it, even destructively. Healthy people, even ones who feel genuine envy, don't build strategies around ruining someone else's wedding. They feel the discomfort, they process it privately, and they move on with their own lives. What your rival did instead required sustained, deliberate effort, the kind that only comes from someone who has spent a long time nursing a resentment they never dealt with honestly. Understanding this doesn't excuse what they did. It explains it, and once you see it clearly for what it is, a desperate, misdirected attempt to sabotage something they couldn't build for themselves, it becomes much harder for their actions to actually hurt you the way they intended. You're not looking at someone powerful who almost took you down. You're looking at someone so unresolved in their own life that your wedding day felt like a threat worth dismantling. It also explains why they were so willing to risk everything on that single day. Someone who has spent years quietly comparing their life to yours doesn't think in terms of long-term consequences when the resentment finally reaches its peak. They think in terms of the moment. Just this one day, just this one opportunity, when everyone is distracted, when everyone is emotional, when the stakes feel high enough to make even a risky plan feel worth it. That kind of thinking rarely accounts for cameras, timestamps, or the simple fact that a room full of people rarely stays as unaware as the person scheming inside it hopes they will. Number 12. The community turning its back on them. Chosen one. Watch what happens now that the footage has made its way through your circle, because this part of the story tells you everything about how people actually feel once the truth is undeniable. The same community that once greeted your rival with warm hellos at every gathering is now going quiet whenever their name comes up. Invitations that used to be automatic are no longer being sent. Group chats that once included them without a second thought have quietly reorganized around their absence. Nobody needed to announce a boycott. It happened on its own, the moment people understood what they had actually been part of celebrating alongside you without realizing it. This is what real consequences look like when they're not manufactured or forced. Nobody is being pressured to cut your rival off. People are simply choosing, individually and without coordination, that they don't want someone like that in their lives anymore. That kind of quiet, collective withdrawal is far more damaging to a person like this than any public confrontation could ever be, because it can't be argued with, negotiated, or spun. It's just people making their own decisions once they've seen the truth clearly, and every single one of those decisions is landing exactly the way it should. Think about what it must feel like to watch your social world shrink in real time, invitation by invitation, message by message, knowing exactly why it's happening and having no defense left that anyone will believe. That's not karma delivered by some dramatic public reckoning. That's simply what happens naturally when people stop extending trust to someone who was proven, on camera, to have spent months planning to hurt someone they love. Chosen one, you don't need to say a single word to make this happen. You don't need to campaign against them or ask people to take your side. The truth is, doing that work entirely on its own, in exactly the way it should. People are choosing you, not because you asked them to, but because once they saw who your rival really was, staying close to them stopped feeling like an option worth keeping. There's a particular kind of clarity that comes from watching a community make this decision on its own, without pressure, without a campaign, without anyone telling them what to think. It confirms something you may have doubted about yourself in quieter moments. The fear that maybe you were imagining the tension. Maybe you were the difficult one. Maybe you were reading too much into small things over the years. Watching an entire circle of people arrive independently at the same conclusion you reached long ago tells you your instincts were never the problem. They were simply ahead of everyone else's evidence. Number 13. Why hiding won't save them. Here's the uncomfortable truth your rival is only now beginning to understand, chosen one. Distance doesn't erase what happened. Silence doesn't undo footage that already exists. They can disappear from group chats, deactivate accounts, move to a different social circle entirely, and none of it changes the fact that what happened, and there are now multiple people who have seen the proof with their own eyes. Hiding might buy them a few weeks of not having to face people directly, but it doesn't rewrite the story. It just delays the moment they have to actually sit with what they did. There's something almost fitting about watching someone who spent months trying to control a narrative from the shadows, now retreating into different shadows to avoid the consequences of getting caught. The pattern hasn't changed, only the direction has. Before, they were hiding their intentions from you. Now, they're hiding themselves from everyone who knows the truth. Both versions come from the same place, an inability to face what they've done honestly, in the open, with real accountability. Chosen one, this is the part where you don't need to chase, confront, or demand anything from them. Let them hide. Let them disappear from the rooms they used to dominate with their carefully built image. The absence itself is the consequence. Every event they skip, every conversation they avoid, Every mutual friend they quietly stop talking to is proof that they know exactly what they did and know exactly how it looks now that it's out in the open. You don't need to push them out. Their own actions are doing that far more effectively than anything you could say. And here's the part that matters most for you moving forward. Their hiding was never about protecting you. It's about protecting themselves from a reputation they built and then destroyed with their own choices. That's not your responsibility to manage, fix, or feel guilty about. You didn't do this to them. They did this to themselves. On the one day you deserved nothing but peace, and now they get to live with a truth that no amount of hiding will ever fully outrun. Even time works differently for someone in this position. For you, the days ahead are full of a new marriage, a new home, a future being built one ordinary morning at a time. For them, every day carries the quiet weight of knowing the truth is sitting out there, unresolved, uncontrolled, capable of resurfacing in a conversation they never see coming. That's not a punishment you have to hand out. That's simply the natural cost of choosing deception over honesty on a day that was never about them in the first place. Number 14. The proof that outlives the rumor. Chosen one, there's a reason this story matters beyond your own life, and it's worth naming clearly before we close. For years, people who do exactly what your rival did counted on one simple truth about how gossip works. Rumors fade, memories blur. Without proof, the version of events that survives is usually whichever one gets repeated the loudest, the longest, by the most convincing storyteller. That's how manipulators have operated for as long as manipulation has existed. Control the narrative, and the truth becomes irrelevant, because nobody can prove it either way. What happened at your wedding broke that pattern completely. This isn't a story that will soften with time or get reshaped by whoever tells it next. It's not going to become, well, both sides had a point, the way so many of these situations eventually do. Once enough time passes and enough people forget the details, the footage exists. It's dated, it's specific. It doesn't age the way memory does, and it doesn't bend the way stories do when they pass from person to person at parties years from now. Long after this moment fades from everyone's daily conversation, that proof will still exist exactly as it was captured, unwilling to soften into something more forgiving. That matters more than it might seem in the moment. It means your rival doesn't get the luxury that so many people in their position eventually get. The slow social amnesia that lets a person quietly rebuild their reputation once enough time has passed and enough new faces have entered the room who never heard the original story. Every time this comes up again, and stories like this do tend to resurface eventually, the proof will still be exactly as damning as it was the day it was first seen. There's no fading, no reshaping, no benefit of the doubt to slowly earn back through good behavior and selective memory. For you, chosen one, that's a strange kind of peace. You don't have to carry the burden of keeping this story alive, of reminding people what happened, of defending your version of events every time someone brings up your rival's name. The truth is, doing that work permanently, on its own, without needing your energy or your attention ever again. You get to simply live your life, and if the subject ever comes up again, the answer is already sitting there, unchanged, unshaken, and completely out of anyone's control to rewrite. Number 15. The new chapter that belongs to you. Chosen one, here's where this story actually ends, and it has nothing to do with your rival anymore. Their unraveling was never the point. It was simply the byproduct of the truth finally catching up to someone who thought they could hide behind timing and whispers forever. The real point, the part that actually matters for your life moving forward, is the marriage you built on a day that survived every single thing thrown at it. Your vows still happened. Your first dance still happened. The people who truly love you were still there, celebrating with you, completely unaware of the storm, quietly unfolding around the edges of the room, and none of it touched the center of what that day was actually about. Let that settle for a second. Despite months of planning, despite whispered comments and carefully placed tension, your rival did not get to define your wedding day. They didn't get the reaction they wanted. They didn't get the chaos they were hoping for. They got a beautiful ceremony that happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. And then, weeks later, they got exposed by the very evidence they never knew was being collected the entire time. That's not a coincidence, chosen one. That's what happens when you build something real. It survives interference, even interference you never see coming until much later. Going forward, this isn't a story about revenge, even though it might feel satisfying to watch consequences land exactly where they belong. It's a story about what happens when you keep building your life with integrity, while someone else spends their time trying to tear it down. You didn't need to expose them. You didn't need to confront them at the reception or make a scene. You simply lived your day, trusted the people around you, and let the truth arrive in its own time, in its own way, through a source neither you nor your rival ever expected. That's the version of power worth having, chosen one. Not the loud kind, not the kind that needs a dramatic confrontation to feel real. The quiet kind, where you keep moving forward, keep building your life, keep choosing joy, and the truth simply catches up to everyone who tried to stand in your way. Your wedding day is over now, but what it revealed about who truly belongs in your life is only just getting started. And this time, chosen one, you get to decide exactly who earns a place in the next chapter. Look at where you're actually standing right now. Married to someone who chose you fully, in front of witnesses who now know exactly what you were up against without either of you having to say a single defensive word. A circle of people who sorted themselves out on their own, without pressure, the moment the truth became visible. A rival who spent months building a plan that ended up erasing their own place in your life instead of yours. None of that happened by accident, and none of it required you to fight for it in the way you might have expected. You simply kept living honestly, and the people and the proof around you did the rest. That's the part worth carrying forward from everything you just heard. You don't have to chase justice. You don't have to manufacture consequences or make sure the right people find out. You just have to keep being exactly who you already are, patient, steady, unwilling to shrink yourself for anyone's comfort, and let time do what time always eventually does to people who build their plans on lies. It finds the footage. It fills the silence. It turns the whisper back around and points it straight at the person who started it. If this story hit somewhere real, chosen one, drop 77 in the comments so I know it landed exactly where it needed to. And if you want to keep messages like this one coming, the super thanks button on your screen goes a long way in keeping this mission alive. Every bit of support means we get to keep telling stories like this one, stories that remind people they were never as alone or as unprotected as they felt in the moment. Thank you for staying until the very end of this one. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and stay exactly as unshakable as you were on that day.